How's it going, everybody? Welcome to We Do Tech, and also to my look at this massive beastly case right here. So this is the Cooler Master HAF 700 Evo, and the HAF series have been very popular in the gaming community because of the name standing for a high airflow. So right there, you know this is going to be more for a better cooling instead of just looks and aesthetics. So you have plenty of fan space right here at the top, at the front, here at the bottom, pretty much everywhere on the sides, at the back. It's kitted out. So in all honesty, this is a case that you want to go full out with, water cooled to the max, because I feel otherwise, if you're just going to put a normal system in here, it's definitely not going to do it justice. But you can, of course, if you wanted to, if your wallet was able to support that, because currently MSRP should be around $500, but most likely it'll be above that because of the regions and so on. And for you in South Africa, you're probably looking upwards of 10,000 Rand for this case. Now, that does sound really expensive, but this is top of the range that you get. And first time I was actually unboxing this and just checking it out, I was mind blown by all that you get actually out of it and the possibilities that you get. So we're gonna go over all of the features, installation, spacing, fans, all of that. We do of course have our RGB here at the front, our LCD panel there as well, which is pretty cool. And then again, just so many options with this case. But with all of that, let's quickly get into actually seeing how it works, because that's also a bit different to a lot of other cases that I have used before. All right, so starting off, of course, we have our RGB panels here at the front. Instead of just being a normal tempered glass and so on with the fans shining through that, instead you get that aligned running down the front, which is then illuminated when the system is turned on, which actually looks pretty cool. It's something a bit new, and not a lot of cases actually does that yet, but I think that's going to be a lot more popular in the future. Now, of course, you do also get that LCD screen at the front, which I also really do like. Usually you get them now on all of the coolers and so, but now they actually installed it on the front of the case as well, which I think is a nice addition where you can get all of your temps, all of your readings and so on. And then also you can add a little GIF and a video there as well, which I think is really cool. It's again something a bit different. I don't think I've seen it on a different case yet, but possibly later on we will also, but this is the first one that I believe. Now, as for your front I/O, you do on the right side get your power switch, your reset switch, and then also your mic and headphone jack. But then on the left side, you have 4 USB 3 ports and then also a Type-C port. So a lot of front panel connectors are right there. Now, moving on towards the panels. So this is where it gets a bit different, where sometimes you can just pop off the side panels and that's pretty much it. Of course, this is a tempered glass and it's quite heavy, but to actually open up the case, you need to pop off the top panel first, which you remove like that. And of course, we are going to go over all of the fan placements and all of that, but then you actually get into removing the side panels here, which just then pops out like that, and you remove it like that. So a massive tempered glass side panel on the right side. And then you're greeted with the massive amount of space in the side here. I don't even know what to do with it. Now we'll get to the back, but first let's quickly go over the inner side here, because again, there's so much space. You can already see you do have some options down here for 3 fans that can also actually, everything is locked in a place with these locks. So you can remove that if you want to have more space for your fans up here, but you can also close it and then have it for your SSD storage. And this is not, again, not the only place. You have the front, at the top, at the back. Everything has these thumb locks. Now again, at the bottom you do have space for 3 fans, either 120 or 140 millimeters. So you do actually have the option of removing this entirely, again with these thumb screws, where you can actually remove it entirely like that, get it out of the way. You can also open it up actually, and if you wanted to install your fans right there easily, then you do have the option for that. It makes it so easy. Now at the bottom you do have plenty of space there. If you wanted to remove it, you do also have a dust filter down here as well, which you can slide out. Now if you don't want to remove it, you do actually have the option of tilting the entire section, where you can actually unscrew it and then lock it in place like this, again just with screws and so on, thumb screws. So there it stays in a place. How cool is that? So it'll push a bit more air in the case. Not sure if it's going to make it that big of a difference depending on the vertical space that you go for. Maybe if you mount a vertical GPU, it might make a bit of a difference, but I don't think it's going to be that crazy. But it's still pretty cool, and you do have that option. That's the great thing about the case, where you just have that many options. So that is just for the bottom so far. Let's quickly move on to the front then. So then at the front, of course, we talked about the RGB at the front and everything, but it's a mesh up there again instead of tempered glass. And you do get two pre-installed included 200mm sickle flow RGB fans. So I'm really happy to see those. They're not again as fast, but they do push a lot of air through, and especially because it's so big at the front, it's going to, you don't need to have multiple 120s or multiple 140s. Instead of two of those, and it's going to push plenty through that. Now for additional cooling, if the 200mm fans isn't enough, you do actually have the option of mounting a radiator here as well, and possibly fans also. Not that I think you really need, but again, it's the same principle as down here, where you do actually get this tray which you can entirely remove, and then you do have the option of mounting your fans and everything through that. All you need to do is unscrew the screws down at the top here, and then you can open it up and install your fans in there. Or again, like we talked about, you do have the option of installing radiators, which I think will be better. Now, I did actually taste this, and if you wanted to go for the non-custom loop route, you do have the ability to actually install a radiator all-in-one here at the front. With some of the ones like my Cooler Master Liquid ML360R, unfortunately the pipes aren't long enough. So you can actually install it and it fits through. You will need to route the entire head through the side here. It's a bit tricky, but it can actually fit. And then it fits inside here, and you have the option of installing your fans here on the outside. But the problem that I ran into once installing the pipes being too short to actually fit all the way over here. So it fits to around here, but then it's really, really stiff, and you don't necessarily want to have your pipes too stiff. So for my Master Liquid, it didn't work, but potentially on some other coolers it might. But we'll get into better options because you do have plenty of space again up here also. And then again, pretty easy to install. Just line it up with its holes and then just pop it in and you're safe. But now pre-installed is actually this mirror, which is a glass, which is, I didn't expect that. But it's pre-installed, and you can remove that for additional option to actually install 3 fans. But I don't think it's really that needed, and I actually like it there to give a bit of an extra effect. Usually if you have such a bigger case, usually the front is a bit bare. There's not really that much going on, and sometimes you put in, let's say, a plant or some bobbleheads or some Funko Pops, stuff like that. But being the glass are up there, it actually gives a nice little reflection, and it actually just spicens up the case a bit more. So I actually quite like that, but again, you can remove it. It's a bit tricky. You do have your thumb screws at the back, but then at the bottom you do need your screwdriver, and there's a lot of cables down there, so it's a bit more tricky to actually get that out, but you can if you wanted to. All right, so we did the bottom, we did the front. Now let's quickly take a look at the top, because this is where just a lot of airflow actually gets into, because you don't just get the option for 3 fans, you actually option for 6 fans. So you can install 6 120mm fans up here, both, well, all 3 kind of next to each other for optimal airflow and for a lot of radiator support. So again, instead of installing your radiator or your AIO at the front, you can actually install it here at the top, and again get still plenty of airflow space, because those 200mm fans is going to pull in plenty of cold air. No choking going on at the front, because again, it's a mesh. Pull in that cold air, and it's also going to exhaust all of the hot air. And with the help from the bottom fans, those are just going to push all of the additional hot air from the bottom upwards out. So that's going to help plenty for that, and we'll get to the back here also. Now, a problem I sometimes run into, not necessarily the full towers, but in some of the mid towers, is that I usually don't have enough space between my motherboard, VRMs, and then also the RAM, depending on how wide the RAM is, and then also my radiator and then my fans. Usually there's not a lot of space there, and that can cause issues. Full towers, again, not necessarily usually that big of a problem, and with this one, it's definitely not a problem because you have so much space here. I could fit my entire fist in here for space clearance. So your motherboard again is going to fit entirely here, and you do have all of this space. So if you wanted to mount any thick radiators for your custom loops, that's not going to be a problem. Let's say if you want to still go for all-in-one, you can install that and do a push and a pull config. Now moving to the back here, because it's so wide, you do have the additional outlets here and at the bottom, at the middle here, and at the bottom also, just right there. But you do also have two 120mm fans. So if you wanted to, you can even install a 240mm AIO if you really want to, but instead it's more going to be for an exhaust. So you do have two pre-installed 120mm sickle flow RGB fans. So all in all, you do get 5 fans. 2 at the back here, 1 at the bottom here, and those two 200mm sickle flows are there. All of them, of course, being RGB. Now, continuing with the back here, you do have a quick release here. So if you wanted to quickly disconnect your graphics cards or so on, you do have the option for that. Very nice and simple. You will still need to unscrew all of these slots down here. But the nice thing is, because there's no inner lines between them or separators between them, you actually have the option of vertically mounting your GPU, which is awesome. Now, a lot of cases these days do have the option of vertically mounting your GPU, but then you need to go buy additional PCI Express extender cables. Hopefully it works and it doesn't burn. And then also, there's sometimes not a lot of space between the side panel itself and then also the GPUs, because then you actually suffocate your GPU, and that is of course going to increase your temperatures, which you don't want. So what I do like is that Cooler Master actually included both the brackets and then also the extender cables. So it's going to be a proper cable here. I'll just have to check on my mind here if it's PCI Express 4 or 3. So again, with the bracket here, all you need to do is actually remove all of these dividers and then install the bracket here, and then you have plenty, still enough space, still around a fist of space between your GPU and also the side panels. So you won't be suffocating your GPU at all. So plenty of space there. But no, of course, if you want to, you can also go water cool your GPU also, because again, plenty of space. But I have to say, I'm definitely happy that they did include these. Again, for the price point, I would expect it, but still, I am happy for those. Now, just quickly before we move on to the back, you do have a little tray here that actually hides your bottom cable. So if you have your audio connectors, your USBs, your front USBs, and so on, you do have the option of hiding them. But again, you can also remove this tray entirely if that's going to be a hindrance for you. So you do have options. That's the great thing again about the case. You have all of those options. I will say that the case isn't the lightest thing. I can't remember how much it weighs, but it's probably around like 20 Ks or so on. So not the lightest case. It kind of reminds me a lot of the Striker and the Trooper. Those were damn heavy cases. All right, so we covered everything in the front, at the top, at the back, at the bottom, inside. Now let's quickly move on towards the back side. Now, like I mentioned before, if you wanted to, you can remove that mirror and then have the option of installing additional fans and radiators on this side. Actually do a push or a pull config, depending on your configuration. Everybody's use cases are different, but you do have the option. Now, luckily, like I mentioned, you do have plenty of air intakes or outlets here on the side, so that's not going to be a problem. It's not just a solid panel here. Same goes for here at the back, where your power supply will actually sit. So we'll take a look at that, but everything was just thought out perfectly. Now let's quickly just pop this one out as well. Again, pop it towards the side and then just pull out. All of them do also have some dust filters here, so don't need to worry about too much dust getting into your system. And how clean does that actually look? Now, of course, nothing is installed, but how clean is that? Everything is thought out so perfectly. Now, here at the front, of course, you do have all of your cables already neatly actually cable managed. I do appreciate that. They did a proper job. And then here at the front, you do have additional space for either your 120mm fans or 140mm, but then also for your SSD storage. So you do have 3 options there that you can actually use, but all of them have these thumb locks, so you can actually remove them entirely and then have your options for your fans, for your radiator, and so on. And again, this is where that mirror sits that you can actually remove. You do have your thumb screws here, and at the bottom here you do have screws, which is a bit harder to get to, but you can actually remove them, and then you have the option of, again, installing of your cooling devices. Now that is there. Here on in the middle, you actually have an additional cover that you can, again, with the thumb screw, remove, a larger thumb screw, and then you have all of your additional control units and cables and so on. So the nice thing about this case, because the crazy thing is, again, you're gonna have 6 fans here at the front, 2 here, 3 at the bottom. At the front, you can install additional fans. On the side, you can install fans. You're gonna need a proper amount of fan hubs and RGB controllers. So luckily, you do have a lot of splitters available, but you can also then use some of these here. So pre-installed is your RGB connector here at the top, and then also your fan hub. Now, additionally, you do have also your control unit here for additional RGB controls. So majority of RGB and fan hubs can only accommodate around 6 fans or 6 RGB units. You're going to need multiple of them, and then if you actually install them, they're not going to work in sync. That's going to be a problem because everyone is on their own. They necessarily don't go higher than 6 fans. That is where the control unit here actually comes in, because all of that then connects towards this unit, and that connects to your motherboard. So all of those will be in sync. I don't think it's going to be necessarily entirely perfect. You're not going to be able to do all of the crazy effects that you wanted to, but you do have the option of controlling everything. And again, your RGB hub, and then also your fan hub here for 6 fans, 6 RGB units. So plenty of options for that, and to include it, that's the nice thing. But of course, if you needed to install additional controllers, you do have plenty of space here. Again, you can fit almost an entire fist in there. That's going to be my joke for today. So you do have the option of installing more. Just be aware of the grommets here. You can run your cables and so on, but you do have plenty of options, and then also your cable management units. There's so much options available here. Now, you might already see this massive unit over here. It's a bit of an eyesore, but it's where actually your hard drives, your 3.5mm hard drive actually are stored. So if you wanted to, again, nice thinking, you can actually remove it like that, pop it out, and then you have your access to your base, or you can remove it entirely. So you do have the option of 4 3.5mm mechanical hard drives, or of course an additional SSD storage, but you already have so many of those, so it's not going to be a problem. You can remove that. It's going to be a bit cleaner, possibly for additional cable and management and so on, depending on your power supply and how many additional units you have, components, but you do have the option for that. And again, it's so easy to actually pop out and use. How damn easy is that? Just like that. Oh, I love that. And now you'll also see that at the bottom here is actually where your power supply lives. Now, instead of your power supply being entirely at the bottom, being horizontal, now it's actually a vertical, which takes up less space. And again, that's thanks to the case being a bit thicker than normal, so you can actually fit it here entirely and have more cable management space. Now, of course, you will have to install your power supply that it actually is facing the fan on this side, where you can actually get intake and then also push off the fan, the hot air out. I don't know, sometimes the people mount it the wrong way around. I'm not sure why, but that is going to how you actually mount your power supply, and it's going to fit here nice and neatly. Everything has a proper space for it. But now that's pretty much it for my quick look at the Cooler Master HAF 700 Evo. Now I need to put all of this back, but I'm honestly so impressed. It's been a while since I've actually been impressed with a case, and this honestly impressed me so much. Now, again, it's going to be very expensive. It's not going to be for just the average gamer, but if you want to go all out, and again, if you're going to go all out, you're going to go water cooling as well, then this is definitely a case that you want to go take a look at. There's not a lot of cases, I believe, that's going to be, that's it, on this level. But that's going to depend, of course, up to your wallet, if it can actually afford it. But if I was going to go that route, just see if I can line it up there. Luckily, you'd have your arrows there that tells you where it actually goes, just like that. If I was actually to install or build a crazy system like this, then I would definitely use this case. Whew. I just need to gym a bit more to actually lift it up, and if you have a system in here, that's going to be heavier. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my look at the HAF 700 EVO from Cooler Master. Big shout out to them for sending it over. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do a build in the system, because again, the hardware that I have is going to look like I've built a mini ITX system in a full tower, normal full tower. It's just not going to do it justice. But of course, I will put a lot of B-roll in for you guys, so you can actually see all of the finer details and so on, also some of the RGB and everything. But hopefully one day we can maybe do a bit of a build inside here, a proper build. I'll see if we can actually do that. But again, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you want to get the case, I don't believe it's out yet entirely, but once it is, I will leave links in the video description so you can check that out. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll check all of you next time. Cheers, guys.